reflect stagnant wages and inflation, we may have more room in our operating budget on a semesterly basis to include this in our operating budget. But in no way, shape, or form does the Graduate Student Council prioritize social events at the expense of food security for our graduate students. We simply want to address all of the issues with the resources we have.
Is that I just stop at $2,000, but because inside on the ground is system, and we don't want to. I think back to whatever amount to satisfy.
It is not a lottery system. That message was in error.
Oh.
The Brown Market Shares program that the Graduate Student Council contributes to sponsor food insecure graduate students is a collaboration financially between those three entities that I named: Office of the President, the Graduate Student Council, and the grad school. The Brown Market Shares program is operated by undergraduates who run the Brown Market Share program. Because of the grad student undergrad communication discrepancies that occur, I think on their end, there was just some mismessaging. That has since been corrected. If you go back to the website, that was corrected earlier this week at my behest, and we made it as clear as possible in our communications with the Brown Market Shares program that this is in fact not a lottery and will be a need-based program that we hopefully are able to support all the students. The reason why we stop at 10,000 is not because we think 10,000 is sufficient and anyone beyond there is that.
It's because last semester we took 5,500 from our savings again. That's about 90 people. Like Alex said, we went from 30 more people in 2 days. So doubling it from us means then that we've got more position with the graduate school, with the Office of President, with which to sit there and create that financial bargain to make sure everyone is encompassed. Obviously, if it needs to go up, then I will come back in the next meeting. No one is turning anyone away, but the difficulty of it is that we are a small budget. We have a tiny budget compared to everyone else. We can't, at the moment, we're in a position where we can skim things off from the savings. But one of the reasons we were so effective in the pandemic was because we were able to dip into savings at 50,000, 40,000 times. If we keep on doing that, we can't do that in the future if something else happens. So to double now to 10,000, we're in a fine position. So it's about making sure that we can actually create that system so it works by itself. Alice,
in a way, it's unethical to use that.
Can you speak up? Sorry.
Sorry, we got the key drum.
There was one question in the chat.
We got 3 questions in the chat for Joe mainly.
Okay, great. That's your question.
First question. Are we going to have another invited speaker this semester?
Are we going to have another invited speaker this semester?
No, it's generally only once a year in the fall semester. That comes directly from savings anyway, so not this semester, unless something happens, but I doubt it. Not this semester for it. Next question.
Second question.
Actually, I have a good question to follow with the speaker. So we're only having one area savings. And across campus, and perhaps that line actually get some of those. I think it's, we think like previous sectors committed to $10,000. It seems like that might not be quite enough to get the kind of person on very attractive. I don't know. This is a good.
It's something that as we go into September, we'll be discussing, because obviously as of the new year with more high prices, I think the high prices, the higher fees, I think what will happen is we'll be able to talk about this in more detail later on. So it's something that does need to be addressed.
We have discussed the decrease though. Maybe a decrease, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, but
No.
nothing.
But, next question.
Next question. Is the $81,000 non-savings budget from student activity fees and/or from the university?
Just, it's so the 81,000, the non-saving, the working budget, it is solely from the student fees. It is solely from the student fees. In spring 2021, we got 66,000, we got 60,000 in spring 2020. This is solely down to the amount of students Brown has. So many students, in particular, master's students, were on, took a not leave of absence, but delayed themselves coming into Brown. That's why we have a bumper amount of people, about 2,500, 2,600 graduate students. So that is purely from that, and the savings is just whatever accumulated over the years.
Question from the chat. Is it correct that large socials are $33,000, up from $5,000, or is that a typo?
No, so that's, we've got to remember that spring last year, we were not in person, Brown did not sanction events, thus we did not have any big socials at all last semester, this time last year. However, Brown is in person, we are being encouraged, and also, like Alex said, we want to regrow the community. So that's why if you look at 2020, that is 25,000 in 2020, but then the fact that we've got so many more students, that's why the increase of 8,000 has been put in, because we're doing 3 events minimum, hopefully, 3 events minimum, hopefully, for about 200 to 300 more students than we've ever had in the graduate community. So that's exactly why it's that. So it looks like a huge increase, but then if you look at like everything else that sort of happened, like student life and everything was changed all around, because these were war budgets. These were budgets in terms of everything got changed on its head because of what we could do, what we couldn't do, and how we worked around it. Excellent.
Are there any more questions on the proposed budget for spring 2022?
Then you come back next semester and then nothing happens. Your events will not happen this next 2 weeks. Recognized groups won't get funded for the next month. Everything goes to a standstill.
Yeah.
We've already got 3 recognized groups asking for $1,500. We've got applications coming in. None of that will go through.
Food security.
Food security will not get paid.
Yeah.
Can you speak up?
I don't like certified maybe. Like. Well, let's say some is not.
It's the budget as a whole or not. How is it?
In the Constitution, basically, at this meeting, every first meeting of the semester, whoever presents the budget, we discuss it as reps. If we want to change the budget, we can do so on the spot and vote. It's just, we can vote the budget up or it doesn't pass. Basically, we can discuss, decide between it.
Okay.
What change?
I'd like to do $10,000 to 30 and 6 $10,000 from large social back into some.
That is a semantic difference. That is a semantic difference in the fact that we don't know how much is coming out. Having that up to 10,000 being available, there is no difference in what you're saying and what is on it. The only difference is that, as we both explained, is that rather than, as other people have explained, it is not really the GSC's job to create a food security program, but we have stepped up to do so in the interim whilst negotiations have come up. If you'd like to vote on that, you can vote.
Would we like to take this to a vote? Can we, do we need to motion to take it to a vote? But
So as right now, it has, as right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And it's that whole thing of last semester, we had about 90 people, as when we opened up the form this time, 30 people already. That's why from the savings, it's gone from 5,500 to 10,000, because we don't know what's going to happen, because it's about the third or fourth time we've run this program, so it's about making sure that we have the right data to take to the grad school.
And
There's
we-
now a third more slot across
There's the budget, there's no issue with the budget. Everyone who needs it, we are going to support it. It's an absolute, but it's just last semester at 78 people, it was 5,500 from us, 5,000 from the graduate school, 5,000 from the student from the office of the president. So thus, if we sit there and say we're putting 10,000 on the table straight away to make sure all those people who are in need, then we can go to the grad school, have a best bargaining position. There's no question about it whatsoever. It's going to be met, and hopefully the union is going to help out as well with their negotiations, because we are a unified platform to making sure that graduates have got the best position. So if that's the case, then you haven't seen the motion to change the first half of the budget.
so the first question is, are you a representative?
Yes.
Okay, great. So for those virtual, we have a proposal from one of our departmental representatives to consider changing the $33,000 large social budget line, remove $10,000, which would bring that budget line down to $23,000, and take the $10,000 that we were going to pay for the food security program from our savings account and instead put it into our semesterly operating budget. As we've mentioned several times, what this will do will just limit our opportunities to establish community at Brown, because we will be $10,000 behind what we had budgeted, and it will not change the food security program.
Can I also just add
So-
something? Like just my point of view on this.
Sure.
I just think like it's really important to have like some sort of leverage or like a bargaining kind of like an advantage with the grad school, and when we try to convince them to put more money into it, if you're already saying we are putting in 20,000, they're gonna just assume that, oh, you guys have taken care of this. When it's not something that we should be taking care of, they should be taking care of it. So I really genuinely feel like taking the onus away from the grad school, away from the president's office, and saying that, yes, we'll cut away from the things that we've been doing for more than like a few decades now to foster community amongst students, and to completely, put it into another bucket and then send that signal to the graduate school is something that is going to be detrimental in the long run. So I'm just expressing my point of view on this, and I don't know if we want to have a discussion on it, but that's what I think.
Could you echo
So
what she said?
I can translate to a louder voice. So just piggybacking off of what Dinish had said,
I just want to remind everyone here that we are not the graduate school. We are the graduate student council. We are not owned by the graduate school. We're not part of administration in any way.
so could
And
you
if
pause real quick? So what she's saying, for anyone in the back, perhaps, or online, we are not the graduate school. We are the graduate student council. There is a clear difference between the two. We are not owned by the graduate school. We simply collaborate with them to establish productive relationships to affect change in our community.
Right, and so when we're putting money into the student security program, it's because we're really trying to show the graduate school that this is something that we need. And it's not because like we're trying to make this something that's solely funded by the DSC. We're trying to push the graduate school to be 100% funding for the student security program. So if you have issues with how much money we're putting in, we should actually be bringing that problem to the graduate school and not to us, because we only have an $81,000 budget. They have like hundreds of thousands of dollars, way like more than that. So like they should be the ones who are funding it. So we're doing this out of like our desire to try and actually help the
Can I speak a little bit?
So did everyone, so, okay, so essentially what I was saying is that it is the position of the Graduate Student Council that we are not to be funding such a program because we have a small operating budget and it is not meant to fill the gap that has been caused by stagnant wages and too low of pay. However, we have continued to fund this program so that we can show the graduate school the need. We can put some skin in the game and we can walk up to the bargaining table and say, listen, we are putting $10,000 in. You need to match this because we should not have having to be paying for our own food insecurity. It is illogical. It makes no sense. And so I was suggesting that you also bring some of your concerns. This is directed towards everybody to the graduate school regarding the food insecurity problem that is growing on campus so that we can continue to leverage our position against the graduate school in a way on this one, so that we can clearly show them that this is a need that needs to be filled by them and 100% by them. Is that a fair translation? Okay. Now, Jordan had a quick comment and then Trayshawn.
Oh, hi guys. So in regards, be louder.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So in regards to that, the additional issue that I see with that, making that change is that on the official budget, it's gonna show $23,000. So when we apply or when we move for the budget in spring 2023, it's gonna look like we made do with $23,000 when we did not. So in order in spring 2023, for us to get the proper amount of funding that we need for the large socials to make the social events that bring the community together happen, it's gonna require us to say or act like we're increasing the budget by $10,000 when in reality we're not. So from the social chair perspective, that's the problem that I see.
Understand?
So Trayshawn asks, why is the graduate school not already taking over this program? Essentially, right? Like, what is their stance as to why this? Yeah, it's an excellent question. And the answer is slightly unknown. I think part of the reason is that the graduate school is under the impression that some of the stopgaps that they put into place to support graduate students, whether it's the meal gap program, emergency funding, short-term, small temporary loans, and then also contributing to the meal program. At this point, it seems like they're trying to kind of financially contribute to these problems, but not actually address some of the root cause. And so this is why, again, we're proposing doubling our budget, or doubling our contribution for this program, and bringing it to the grad school and saying, this is the need, this is what we had to do, we need you to step up. So, yeah.
Just to add to that, another issue that they have to bring up is a longer term issue of like, how do you assess food insecurity, which is something that is a formula that is different for the kind of demographic audience that you're looking at, which has been informed by a lot of the undergraduate experiences, which is very different from graduate, where we have families, we are supporting other people, we are doing a lot of other things in life as adults, right? So that is something that is an issue that we keep bringing up to them, that we need to change in the long term, about how do you assess need, and also for the fact that students need to go to the grad school and fill out these forms, and like the amount of effort they need to put in to just express that they need like something as basic as food, it's frankly very humiliating. And that is something we've tried to work around, honestly, with providing this as like, okay, we don't ask multiple questions about, okay, what is your income? What are your bills? What are these X, Y, and Z things that you need to prove to us that you're food insecure? It's more of an honor system, which we do trust as, grad students. We know that there is a need there because we feel it. So honestly, like there is a disconnect there for sure, which is something we are also trying to attack from another end, trying to build these policies better. But for the time being, what we can do is show them the need, right? These many people are applying, like in 2 days, 160 or 120 people are applying. Clearly, there is a need there. So this helps us. But then if we are saying that, oh, we're just going to fund all of them, then this like gives them a way to kind of like, just, pass off the responsibility. So this is where we need to keep on advocating, but also need to be strategic about it. I think this increase is great, and I would want us to vote for that. But then again, I'm just sharing my opinion, and let's see what the whole general.
And then to go to your question as well, like institutional change, it's not difficult to impact. It takes a lot of doing, it's a lot of hours from everybody here. We are pushing and pushing and we'll keep on pushing it, but it's like rolling a rock up a hill.
This is a conversation I've actually had with someone before. I've really been like, there are students that face food insecurity, and then they'll be like, we believe that the stipend is sufficient for a single person to feed their rent and get food. And it's like, well, a lot of graduate students are not just supporting it. And it's like, well, if they're unable to support themselves, then they're just better than it. And then it's like, no, there's people who are actually facing food insecurity, and they're like, okay, that's essentially what a lot of these conversations are like. There's the food is always what happens at the end. And us like having kids in their savings.
Yeah. So I was saying that she's had conversations with people who she's had to explain that graduate students are food insecure, and they were asking, can you? Oh, that's right. And then they came back and they were saying, the stipend is sufficient. How could you be hungry? Like, what is wrong? Can't you afford fresh produce? It's on sale.
Better food prep.
Maybe you could prep your meals better. Maybe you can go to a Stop and Shop because produce is on sale this week and not Whole Foods or whatever. And these are the kinds of some examples of maybe some responses that we've been getting when we talk to the administration about food insecure graduates. But then the conversations usually conclude with where's your proof of need? And I want to just be clear too that the graduate school does have a lot of work to do. In our conversations with them, they have been willing for the past 4 semesters to match the GSC's contribution, which is not to be taken lightly. I mean, regardless of the budget that they have, they listened to us and we did advocate and we made progress. There is much more progress to be made. I think I cannot speak for the entirety of the graduate school, but I can tell you a little bit about some of the impressions I get from the many meetings and conversations I have with administrators. It seems to me that them, as well as the members of the GSC, agree that funding the food program in this way is not financially sustainable. It does get quite expensive. And that's why we're having such a lengthy conversation about the budget. The graduate school is focused on long-term solutions, looking at things like graduate student subsidized produce that is institutionalized, which is what we're advocating for, graduate student meal plans that are subsidized, which is what we're advocating for, having meal gap programs and swipe programs for accessing dining halls, opening up a Brown University grocery store. I mean, there has been discussions at all levels to subsidize food for our community here. And I think that part of the delay comes from the fact that there are certain people who are looking far beyond and forgetting that people are currently hungry right now. And so the Graduate Student Council is stepping up to fill that need right now and continues to pressure for the longer term solution so that we can solve this problem for good. Sure, yes. Yes.
Asking for, so I understand one of the some of the one administration, and I wouldn't want to move them from another area to
It's also very helpful to remember as well that before COVID, there was no GSC food security fund at all. There was no money in the budget whatsoever. It was only because of the fact that we were physically locked indoors and didn't meet everything, we freed up the money. And when we saw the need for it, we stepped up and we'll continue to do so. So you had your proposal, so if you put your proposal, I think it's time to vote on it. And then after that, I would like to vote on the budget as a whole. So proposal is to
Okay, so I think what we should do is vote on the budget as it is, and if it fits with that motion on the floor, and then if it fails, it suggests that people agree with that, and then we can revote. Does that seem fair? Is everyone cool? This is how it's going to work. And so this is it. So first things first, I would like a motion to approve the spring 2020 budget in its current form. Can I get a movement for that?
Hold on,
Oh.
there's one last question in the chat.
Okay.
what's the question?
Joe, this has sort of been addressed by the comments, especially by Alex
Ask the
about,
question. Ask the question. Get this question.
well, okay. What's the,
Yeah, I'll read. What's the logistical value of the GSC's savings? What are the implications of setting the GSC savings back by 10 semesters? Alternative wording, $10,000 is less than 5% of the GSC savings. Not that significant.
And that
Yeah.
question is by who?
Oh, and that question was by Matt. Is that Matt Jones?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was by Matt.
Yeah, it's not as amount at all for our savings, but when I came to the treasury, the savings was only about $140,000. But because of the way we've been able to spend the constrictions we've had by the graduate school, that means it's grown exponentially, mainly because of COVID. But in the same time, during those periods, we booked 40,000, 50,000 each summer to the grad school to make sure they had extra time. So having it right, it's no issue. But at the same time, it comes down to that argument that Alex Enish made, that as we go forward, it is not necessarily the role of the Graduate Student Council to advocate for this. God, we are going to advocate for it until the graduate school and the administration does a bit more and actually sorts out this problem. So this is very much, and always has been, a temporary view of it. Hopefully that answers your question.
So I think we've had a robust discussion. We're going to take this first budget to a vote. We have the motions and the seconds to do so. So all in favor of approving the spring 2020 budget in its current form, please say aye. If you're a representative,
You need to put your hand up to the.
clearly, yes. And put your hand up. That's going to be easier. Again,
hold on.
only representatives can vote.
Also, we have Mai in the chat.
If you're,
Raise your hand.
Okay. All opposed to accepting the budget in its current form, please raise your hand or say nay. And say nay. Okay. Abstentions? One. Again, for those online, if you choose to abstain, please raise your hand. Voted, please lower your hand. Okay, our spring 2020 budget in its current form has passed. We hope that everyone will show up to our events and be okay with how we spend our money. Thank you for voting, for the robust discussion. I think that was very productive. What's that? So since the budget passed in its current form, yeah, okay. All right, great. Thank you so much, everybody, for all of that. Now we're going to move on to filling internal committees. And so we're going to kick it off to our chairs to try and pitch their committees. So we'll start with nominations.
Hi guys, I'm Russell. I'm chair of nominations here. You might not know, the nominations are in charge of graduate students to fill roles on a variety of university committees. There's an awful lot of university committees with input, and so having people in these positions to offer that input is incredibly valuable to the needs of graduate students in various aspects of life. So, that's what we do. We're also in charge of approving new graduate student groups to be officially recognized by the DSC, which then makes them eligible for the funding available for graduate students. So all important stuff. Additionally, not up here right now, but in the of selecting winners for students that are given out at convention, Bates Pratt and Wilson. Those staff members had a strong positive impact on the lives of master's students and doctoral students, respectively. I'm looking forward to working on that process and recognizing staff members who contributed to improving our lives. So that's what nominations is about. I have two wonderful groups. I'd like to get at least 3 more because there are so many important tasks up for the spring semester. If you're interested, if you know anyone who's interested, come chat with me after the meeting, shoot me an email. GSC_nominations@brown.edu. Would you mind putting that just in the, I'm putting it. Thanks. Looking forward to working with whoever's interested.
Are there any people in attendance here virtually or in person that are interested in joining the nominations committee at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, and I really should have addressed that in my initial pitch. So the good news is it's mostly asynchronous. How it basically works is when I get information that a committee needs filling or a group wants recognition or anything like that, I put together and send out an application for it. And when I've got a certain amount of responses, I put those in a spreadsheet and send that out to the committee. And the committee can then take their time to go over the responses independently wherever they are and vote on the results. The one thing that we are going to need to do all together is going to be the last item of business, which I did not get into, which is choosing graduate speakers for commencement, which will be in about middle of March. We'll need to conduct some interviews for prospective speakers to pitch their speeches to us, essentially. I am currently planning to hold that virtually. But if in person is possible and comfortable for people, then we might go that route, in which case I will also be providing snacks. Overall, a fairly low time commitment, since so much is going to be done over email and independently. And instead of there being regular meetings, it's more of an as the need arises type of thing.
So if you're interested, please reach out to Teresa. Okay, next up.
It's financially working with me. It's a great one. It's lots of fun. It's not very much commitment. What happens is the free funds that we have, I'll talk about in a second. When you get an application, I send it over to the finance committee. We've got 7 people already. You vote on it, yes or no. It's majority yes. They get the money. If not, we break some dreams. For the conference fund, 2 weeks within 2 weeks of closing, I give you about 10 to 20 applications. You look over it, you score them. I give you some food. We debate who gets funded. We make dreams. We break dreams. That's fun. Very, very good fun. I'd recommend doing it.
Okay, so that's for the finance chair. Sounds important too. So if you have interest, please reach out to Joe after to join his committee. Next up, we have the social chair.
Hey guys, so we actually have 4 people who are currently on the committee for social. I think they're right over there, guys. Melanie isn't here, but she's here in spirit. And Tariq, the former social chair, is also on the committee. So what are the benefits of being on the committee? So there are 3, I think, that are pretty important. You can participate in the social. Louder? Okay. So it is a nice volunteering pipeline. You know, if you are looking or itching to get volunteer hours, you can get a lot of this. You can volunteer at the events. You can volunteer outside of the events with the internal committees, and you get free pizza or free stuff along the way if you don't have a long meeting. And I think also pretty importantly, you get to kind of learn how the position is. If you want to take my spot either at the end of this year or such, this is probably going to give you a pretty deep understanding of what the position entails and how it works and how you can align yourself to that, or whether, or kind of just learn how it is. I think, anyone who's been on the committee has an advantage over someone off of the committee to actually know how the position is and know at least to themselves that they're ready for it. So yeah, if you're really interested, we get to plan a lot of fun social events. We're planning 3, but we're going to go into that really soon. Let me know. More than happy to have you guys on board.
That's the social committee. So if you're interested in joining Jordan and the crew on the social committee, please reach out to Jordan. He can be reached at gsc_vp social@brown.edu or here in person. Okay, student life. Abdullah is virtual.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So this semester, I'm looking to form a committee to help with the GSC initiatives focused on student life. In particular, the GSC initiative to improve mental health in the community. And at the moment, I'm tackling this from 2 fronts. The first is just trying to find a way to improve the experience with CAPS and graduate students. And then the second is I'm trying to plan a mental health week in collaboration with the National Alliance on Mental Health to try and build off of their efforts because it turns out May is actually mental health month. And so that's probably a good time to try and organize an event for the graduate students centering around that. And so I can get to that. We can talk about that a little bit later during the eBoard updates, but at least I imagine that with the pooled efforts of a committee, we'd be able to expand to do a few more things throughout the semester. And so there are a few other responsibilities I could use help with, but this would be the main one that I'd like to focus on for the semester. And so if you guys are interested, the email is gsc_studentlife@brown, or I'd be happy to chat after this Zoom call. Any questions? Also, I don't know if we're doing that.
We're doing it. Looks like no. All right, perfect. So that's social life. Have a nice budget this year to try and help the community. Student life, sorry. Masters, Sid.
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm the master's advocate. So if there are any master's students who feel that there's something which we can do to improve the master's degree at Brown, I mean, I would say join the GSC Masters Committee and bring that change by yourself. I'm advocating on two things, which is financial aid and how to establish a better communication to master's students from the departments. Along with that, a responsibility would be to organize events specifically focused to master's students. Also with that, Joe has given us a good budget this year. Thanks for that. And so we can organize, I think, 3 to 4 events just for master's students. So I'm going to need help and ideas on that. And that's it. It's a fun, rewarding position. Obviously, you get free pizza and beer for every meeting. So I think you should join.
I think it's a great reason.
I joined it.
Yeah, it hurts a lot.
It's the only reason I could.
So that's the Masters Committee, Masters Chair Committee. So you can reach out to Sid in human form or over the internet if you email gsc_madvocate@brown.edu. And last and certainly not least is the international, which is not Sion tuned in online.
Not on the call at all. I
I
can,
don't see him.
Okay,
I
so
can push for it.
you want to touch this?
Sure, I was the advocate for international students like in the previous semesters. I served in the role for almost a year. It's an exceptional role if you want to advocate for anything related to international students, whether it's finance related, whether it's anything related to living your life here, adjusting to your life here as an international student coming to Providence for the first time, whether it's housing, whether it is trying to figure out any sort of banks or any sort of other legal things that are really, really confounding as an international student. As in like the committee itself gets to attend a bunch of meetings. Again, there's a lot of different centers at Brown that tackle problems related to international students. So there's OISSS, there's Global Brown, there's a bunch of other ones as well. And being part of this committee allows you to have a voice on all of those committees. And I think it's an amazing way to advocate for anything that you feel as an international student needs to be changed. And it's a really fun group of people. Obviously, we also the international advocate also gets a budget, so they can organize a bunch of events or any sort of need that you can identify within the international community that needs to be taken care of. You can organize an event. For example, last year not last semester, we did a paint and sip night. We've also done a bunch of tax workshops that are targeted to international students. So it's a bunch of things that you can do, and it's a great post to be in. And if you are passionate about this is something that I got involved with with the GSC for my first time, and I think it's a great post to serve in. So please apply for the post, and Sion is amazing, and you guys will have a great time being on this in this community.
That's a little bit about the. Okay, so you all have heard some pitches about the different committees that you have the opportunity to serve on, get experience, take a peek into how the university operates and how it operates in the context of the GSC. All awesome opportunities, so I encourage you to please apply and participate. Now we want to move on to some executive board updates. So we're going to go through the whole executive board again. And I'll just kick it off. So we've spoke about the food program, I do believe, quite a bit so far. But because it's such an important thing, I just wanted to make sure that everybody is clear about the resources that are available to them regarding their potential food insecurity. Sorry, I prefer to stand. I think it would be helpful. Please allow me to do that. Okay, so there are 3 arms of the food program. The GSC funded arm of the food program is for those who are food insecure. You need help getting food. The GSC just voted on our budget in collaboration with the grad school and the office of the president. We will pay for your 10 weeks of produce only. There are other options for the food program. We will provide the produce. The other options are twofold. If you are partially food insecure, you can apply for the subsidized program. This is entirely conducted by the Brown Market Shares program, and they subsidize produce for graduate students or community members who need a subsidy. The third option is to apply for a full price share. Simple, full price, you can afford it and you apply. Those links are linked there. For more questions, you can reach out to the Brown Market Shares program. We've requested that the program remain open for another day for the GSC sponsored food insecure aspect, in case anyone was unclear about their ability to apply for such a program. Again, we really believe in the value of this, so we want to encourage people who need it to apply and use this resource. Okay, so that's a little bit about the food program. Are there any questions on that?
So, like long time. So, our players not qualified for.
Thank you for that. So the comment was that the current subsidized share for the Brown Market Shares, which is run by the Brown Market Shares program, currently does not allow graduate student stipends to qualify for a subsidized share. This is a concern that could be brought up with the Brown Market Shares program and something that we will bring up with them. So thank you for that comment. Okay, so moving on. So back in 2019, the Graduate Student Council, in collaboration with the Medical School Senate, established a seminar series called the Research in Medicine Flash Talks. It's an amazing series that allows graduate students to share their research with the medical student community, so that the medical students can get a little bit more understanding about some of the basic research that may inform their medical practice in the future. We have revived this program this year. COVID obviously had a slight impact on a lot of the programming. And so the Medical School Senate is very happy to reestablish this and is very eager to have graduate students go and talk to their medical students. The form to apply is there. When you click on the form, you'll see that the entire medical school curriculum for the semester is outlined in blocks. They learn in blocks or modules. If your research pertains to a particular module, I would suggest that you indicate that on the form, and then we will reach out to you and connect you with the medical school. This is virtual, I think I said, so this allows many more people to participate than perhaps in person, simply because we can attack from 2 fronts. This is an excellent opportunity. I was one of the speakers in the first year. It was a great experience, a good line item on the resume. And so I think it's worth exploring. Currently, among the many priorities that the Graduate Student Council has regarding advocacy for the graduate student community, among the top is advocating for a graduate student center. This is a dedicated space for graduate students. Ideally, it would be much larger and much more welcoming than the space we're currently in. This current space was advocated for back in the 50s by graduate students, and this whole complex was built as a result of that advocacy. The graduate students then hated the space, did not use it, and as such, it has turned into undergrad focused housing, and we have the grad student lounge here. We're advocating for a community center. We need a place for food resources, such as a kitchen or a cafe. We need digital scholarship rooms that can facilitate digital scholarship, whether they're silent study rooms, conference rooms, so on and so forth. We need rooms that can facilitate social and professional development. So just hangout rooms for people that can have interdisciplinary conversations and collaborations, and so on and so forth. We are the only Ivy League school that does not have a dedicated graduate center currently, and this has been a serious point of advocacy. It has been so serious that the administration has recently told us that they are also very serious about it, and so there has been a lot of momentum coming from the top down regarding this. I just wanted to give everyone an update. There's currently a working group that has 4 graduate students on it that are continuing to provide feedback and advocate for resources that we would like to see in the Graduate Student Center. And I would encourage all of you, please pray for my inbox, but please email gsc@brown.edu if you have specific input about what you would like to see in a graduate student community center. The 4 students are doing an excellent job advocating for graduate students, but more input, more better. So if you have any comments, questions, or concerns about what you would like to see in the Graduate Student Center, please email gsc@brown.edu, and I can guarantee that your requests will be put on a very long list of things that we are already asking for. Okay. Lastly, you may have seen in your inboxes, the GSC has put out a academic delay form. So we're essentially trying to survey the graduate student body to assess how significant the time to graduation has been extended for graduate students as a result of pandemic-induced delays. In 2020, faculty received an extension on their tenure packages by 1 year. As a result, graduate students in years 4 and up, as of 2020, also got an extension of their funding, should they need it, by 1 year. We, as a GSC, are acutely aware that we are nearing the 3rd year of the pandemic. And so there is still delay in our graduate student community. And we believe that there should be an extension for people who are younger or lower than years 4. That's currently what we're advocating for. And I think having the mass data from the graduate student community to understand how and if there actually has been a delay is going to be essential for our case to the administration. The administration is very interested in learning about this. They're very receptive to potentially opening up an extension. We simply need to provide them the data for it if there is any. So please, 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 we've linked it here. We sent out a welcome back email today. The link is also there. Click on the survey. Please be candid in your responses and fill it out.
Yes, and also be as specific as humanly possible. Obviously, there's so many departments. It's a survey. We can only ask so many questions, but there are lots of putting your own response. Please put it out. Please encourage your friends in other departments, your own department. The more people we have, the more we've got to work.
I just want to also say, like, to Sean, you've been advocating for this for a while. You always mention it, and I think that's been personally, like, informed a lot of our advocacy on this. So I just wanted to thank you for bringing it up again and again. And hopefully we can get this done.
So with that, that concludes President and VP updates. So we'll send it over to nominations.
All right, this is going to be really quick. Tying into the nominations role of, following graduate students onto positions that allow us to be more aware of what's going on with the administration and advocating for ourselves within that. I'm looking for an awful lot of graduate students who would be interested in observing the monthly faculty meetings. This is not a speaking thing. This is a you show up, you what they have to say to each other about various things that they're concerned about. Level, so if you're interested in academic administration, and anything that really strikes your attention, you can bring it back here and say, hey, this is what we heard at the faculty meeting. This is something the GSC want to know about. So we have 5 openings for new reps. Has been tougher to find since the pandemic, so I'm really strongly aware that 5 kind of seems like a big ask, even when I'm reaching across the whole community. I'm particularly pitching this. Anyone who would be interested, please apply. We have lots of spots to fill, and the more that can be filled, the better. Are you one of my front reps?
So for the online folk, the comment was the meetings are an hour, they happen once a month, they are super spicy. So it seems from reps that it could be worth your time. So with that, finance.
Finance, even spicier. So the the fundings are open. The first one is conference funding. That is not, it's called conference funding, but it's so much more than that. Anything that happens between January the 1st and August 31st, there's a conference, professional development, whether you're just turning up to a conference. If you can get your application in by February 28th, you have a chance of getting up to $250. That's one application per person, up to $250. Next one is the internal event funding. Up to $400 for a personal organization for an event that is for the community. And you wanted spice. The spice is, last semester, because of budgetary constraints, we limited it to either one or the other. However, if you are a recognized group, that means you want to stay recognized by the GSC, $500 this semester is for you. Last semester, we funded 51 people for the conferences. We had 4 key internal events. And we helped fund 3 recognized groups. There is no limitation on applying for one or the other. If you're a recognized group, you can apply for 2. And they are open until the end of the semester. That is all.
Excellent. With that, we'll transition over to social.
All right, if you can click on the link with Welcome Back Social. So I'm gonna apologize to you all just from the start. We haven't heard of this until now. So we're gonna have a spring Welcome Back Social on February 11th from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. We had a location, now we don't, because it got flooded. Yeah, really. They have no idea what, like, they're like, oh, we're gonna, find out when it's gonna be repaired by the end of the week. So I'm gonna presume that it's not available, and we're gonna try and find a space. It should be fun. Ish. But you can follow this link to RSVP. You're gonna get an email out as soon as humanly possible. I haven't sent that out because I wanted to make sure that we had a location, but now we don't. Future pipes. Yeah, of course. You need to speak up. No. We can do it outside at like, at 9 p.m. So we're gonna try and do it inside, but with but that's also why we're trying to get RSVPs as much as humanly possible, so we know how many people are there. We got the largest space that we can. And, you know, the hope is that we can have many without anyone feeling uncomfortable. Oh, yeah, well, there's not going to be different security people. It's not going to be those exact same people. If I'm correct, I believe those people were dismissed for that
Moved
situation.
off of.
We learned a lot from that
So
experience. So they're either not going to be there or we're going to make sure that it's a much more efficient system that doesn't allow for any sort of like issues like that to happen again.
Absolutely. What I said was what Beanish said, I think that that individual is no longer with ESS. And we are actively working with SAO to create a new form of guidelines that pertain specifically to graduate students so that we can operate with the autonomy that a full-grown adult should have.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions? Oh, okay.
Abdullah just wants to know if you could repeat the question for the virtual participants.
Okay. The question was, are we still using I think this is a
Yeah.
So are we still using ESS, which we had a problem with last semester, having the event security? The answer to that question was, we may have to use them in some.
We're not using ESS this event.
For this
We may
event,
have
the
to use
answer,
them for spring formal, but we will not be using them for winter back, so for the welcome back social, because that they're overbooked at this point, and so we're going to be, in a way, kind of running our own school.
yes, that's
Which
right.
has its positives.
That's right. So the security will be in our hands for the first event. We may need ESS in some capacity for larger events that we hold. But we are currently exploring how we can set up our own security system so we can circumvent having to work with ESS, which has caused us problems historically.
Okay, and there's two other events. Yes, thank you.
I can hold it. I can hold it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there's two other events that we're gonna have. You can save the date, March 16th, 7 to 9 for the trivia nights. I'm gonna write it down, set this before the. Okay, perfect, yeah. March 16th, 7 to 9. So we're gonna ask, people make teams of 4, and you're gonna play for prizes. So it's trivia on, it'll be a lot of fun. Then a spring formal, we're actually looking to do this on Simmons Quad, which should be a lot of fun. It should be much cheaper from the perspective of an actual venue, because for the winter formal, we had to pay for a venue. So it's going to be much cheaper from that perspective. So the hope is that we can bring those benefits, at least in regards to, to the cost being lower from the rent perspective or from the rental, to, improve the food, to improve the drinks, to improve, the actual style of the venue. So that's at least what we're kind of looking for. Haven't added the commencement.
Yeah, so
I haven't added that because we don't have enough details on that to really speak of anything. But spring formal, we know it's going to be April 22nd. So save the dates.
perfect. Every spring in the pre-pandemic days, the GSC sponsors a commencement toast. The president of the university, Christina Paxson, is the general speaker to give remarks at this toast. There will be champagne. There will be light bites and hors d'oeuvres. It'll be held on Star Plaza the first night of commencement weekend, and will be immediately followed by the campus dance. So that is how that goes. This year, the budget for that is higher simply because inflation, but also compounded by the fact that we are inviting back 2020 graduates who did not get to participate in such a celebration, so that we can show them a little love for the opportunities they missed. So with that, we're gonna transition over to student life. That's gonna be Abdullah on the interwebs.
All right. Everyone can hear me okay? I'm assuming, all right, cool. So this semester, there are a few things that I'm gonna be working on that I'd like to announce to everyone. So the first thing is that we're gonna try and sort of upgrade the graduate student lounge. And I think that the conversations about it really, I think, began when we started thinking about the graduate, what a graduate student center would look like. And so one of the things that we want people to be able to do in the space is to be able to store their belongings of like student groups for short-term use. So one of the things we're going to do is, as mentioned before, we're going to be procuring locks for the cabinets that people would be able to use to store things for, say, a week at a time, as needed for events. The second thing actually that we wanted to do as well with the cabinets is we wanted to start sort of a pilot program that is almost like another arm to our efforts on the food security problem faced by graduate students, where we would just keep sort of a common stock of non-perishable foods, hygienic and sanitary products that would be available to graduate students at any point for use. And so that's another thing that we're going to try and do with the lounge. On to the mental health initiatives. So these are some things that I mentioned earlier. The National Alliance on Mental Health organizes every year a mental health month, and that's just chock full of events. And the Rhode Island chapter, Rhode Island has one as well, and so we will be partnering with them to organize some events on campus come this May. And the second thing is just CAPS has been sort of a dicey topic with graduate students, with there being a lot of negative experiences between them and us at this point. And so the thing that I'd want to work on is there a way to sort of make that process just a little bit better? And so I've been in contact with Jamal Pollock, who has a dedicated amount of time just for counseling for graduate students, to see if there are other ways that we can better serve the graduate student community through CAPS. And then moving on to just much lighter topics. So there are a few events that I'm putting together on the docket that I can announce now. And the first one is a Latin night, which will be structured as just having a free class taught by a professional instructor, which will then be followed by an evening of just Latin music where everyone can dance and socialize. And the plan is for early mid-March for this event. And then the second one, we're calling the STEAM Room, which will be a STEM themed art showing by graduate student artists, where there will be wine and cheese and people can socialize and take a look at art created by the graduate student community. And that one we're aiming for the end of April as well. And we will be sending out forms for a call for submission actually next week. So stay tuned for that. And then one thing I have not listed, but I am currently working on, is putting together an event geared specifically towards graduate students with families. So stay tuned for updates on that front. And yeah, those are my updates.
Very much, Abdullah. Sid. Wait, did
Yeah. So,
I was like, that's not Sid.
can you show the poster?
Absolutely. One moment. Let's get Abdullah out of here.
Yeah, so basically, I would say we realized that we also need to focus on a lot of events that are focused on just master students. So this event is actually happening on the 24th of February. It's going to happen at Boombox Master Student Karaoke Night. And I also have to mention that this is happening because of Anisha Rapola, the Associate Dean of Student Affairs in the School of Professional Studies. So based on a strategic alliance between us to GSC and SPS, we decided that we're gonna get our resources together and do more events for master students. So please show up for that. And we're gonna have this out soon on the listservs and to the account.
Perfect. And technology.
I got nothing.
Okay, perfect. All right. So with that, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of our GSC semester priorities. They are numerous, so these 6 list items is just a small highlight of some of the things that we're thinking about. So the GSC has established the strategic initiative. This is a 46-page strategic plan that the Graduate Student Council presented to the graduate school. And it serves to provide a framework for critical issues that are highlighted among the graduate student body and provide solutions for how we can address these issues. There are 8 focal points in this, and our goal for this year is to update the GSSI as it is a living document with what we've accomplished so far and what those accomplishments have told us in terms of what still exists for need among the graduate student community. So please keep your eye out for that. It is a hefty document that is incredibly well thought out. So please go to the GSC website. I think you can find a link for it there. Go through it. We'll be working on it this year. Graduate student safety and COVID-19. The Graduate Student Council continues to advocate for workplace and graduate student safety in lieu of the pandemic that will never seemingly end. And so we continue to advocate to the administration for more clear policy guidelines, providing data that has informed the policies that are being made. We continue to advocate for masks on behalf of graduate students and not just KN95s that may be a one-size-fits-all, because it is not one-size-fits-all. We've continued to advocate for more masks. And again, we're continuing to advocate for extensions for graduate students who have been feeling supply chain delays in their research or the inability to go to archives, libraries, and so on and so forth. So
Okay, so what I can hear?
okay, so the question was, is there any update regarding testing, because graduate students have been shafted regarding testing and it seems unjust. Totally agree. The update came from Dean Andrew Campbell in his January 21st correspondence to the graduate student body at the behest of the Graduate Student Council, who said we need clearer policies that pertain to graduate students and clarification on our inability to get tests. As you noticed in that email, it said there is no shortage of tests or masks, and we're still having that conversation, which suggests otherwise. We then reached out again about the inability of graduate students to get tests. Students were being turned away, for example, from their 2 weekly tests that were said were supposedly meant to be available for them. And the result from the administration was that there was an email sent to all graduate students who have picked up a test saying that you are now eligible to pick up another package of tests.
2, I believe.
What's that?
2 packages.
2 packages of
tests.
tests. Yes. So this is something that we continue to push on the administration for. And to be completely candid with you, sometimes it seems like our push results in them digging their heels in deeper. So we continue to advocate on behalf of tests and masks and the accessibility for graduate students. And so we're doing the best we can on that front. Yeah. What else did we have? The Graduate Student Center, food insecurity. We've addressed both of those, as well as mental health. Abdullah talked a lot about mental health. Please, 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 if you need help, reach out to your peers, to CAPS, to Jamal Pollock in the graduate school, who has 40% of his time specifically for addressing graduate student needs. Please do not hesitate to reach out to the greater Providence and Rhode Island community. ZenCare is an amazing platform with which you can find mental health counselors, prescribers of medication, and so on and so forth. You can find one that fits your demographic, an affinity that you have, and so on and so forth. So please use these resources because they are there for you, and we continue to try and make more and more available. Are there any questions comments, or concerns as we begin to wrap up this meeting? With that, I would like to have a motion to close today's meeting. Can I get a second? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Abstentions? It looks like we can conclude today's meeting. Thank you so much for showing up. Really appreciate it.
I know
Form.
100% what you mean.
Please fill out the form to show that you are in attendance on behalf of your department. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting. so-
Sorry, that was my fault.